All right, I want to introduce our first speaker today. In her role as Deputy Undersecretary of Agriculture for the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Alexis oversees the department's international activities. She has key responsibilities in international trade policy and export assistance programs, including the coordination of the USDA's role in international food aid. She also plays a leadership role in several international economic development and trade capacity building programs. Alexis Taylor was formerly the Chief of Staff for the Farm and Foreign Agricultural Services within our USDA. She is a graduate of Iowa State University, and her family's farm has been in operation for 150 years. I've known Alexis for quite some time. She worked as the agricultural liaison for a quite powerful senator in our coalition here in the United States, Senator Max Baucus from the great state of Montana. And it's a pleasure to welcome the Deputy Undersecretary of Farm and Foreign Agriculture Services, Alexis Taylor.
Thank you very much for that introduction, Tim. I have known Tim a very long time and have become very familiar with the U.S. Pulse crop industry here, and personally, having worked for former Senator Baucus, I'm a great fan of the product and our growers and our exporters and just the industry in general. It's my great pleasure to be here. I'm pleased to represent the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and Secretary Vilsack sends his warm regards. I extend my thanks to the Global Pulse Confederation for the extremely important work that you do. I do hope that you find it gratifying and rewarding that this work has been recognized by the United Nations, and with the designation of 2016 as the International Year of the Pulses. All of us at USDA look forward to working with you throughout the upcoming year and raise the profile of pulses to build awareness in the importance that they play in health, nutrition, and food security around the world. The past 6 years have represented the strongest period in agricultural exports in America's history. Last year, we reached a record of $150 billion of agricultural exports. The pulse trade is expanding around the world. The pulse trade is expanding around the world, including the United States, where we export 70% of our annual production. Pulse crops rose to a new record in 2014 as well, up 22% to 1.3 million metric tons. We expect global demand to continue growing as improved standards of living and rising consumer incomes in many countries lead to increased demand for quality protein sources, and that certainly includes pulse crops. The same qualities that make pulse crops desirable to increasing affluent consumers also make them a key to enhancing food security in parts of the world where people often lack physical and economic access to safe and nutritious foods. For those of you who may not be familiar with the work that USDA does, I would like to talk a little bit about that. We facilitate trade and promote food security around the world. A little bit of background of USDA and the Foreign Agricultural Service, which I oversee, or FAS. It's the lead international agency of USDA with nearly 100 offices all over the world. Its core mission is to expand and maintain access in foreign markets for U.S. agricultural products. FAS works in a wide range of stakeholders, including other U.S. agencies, foreign governments, private sector, and NGOs. Our efforts to promote science-based international standards, market information systems, and other services help sustain and expand that trade. FAS leads USDA's effort to help developing countries improve their agricultural systems, thereby promoting economic development and building their capacity to trade. We also work in conjunction with other U.S. agencies and the private sector to administer a number of food assistance programs to help meet nutritional needs of some of the most vulnerable populations in the world. One of our flagship programs on food assistance is the McGovern-Dole International Food and Education and Child Nutrition Program. We know that nutrition and education are strongly linked, and an estimated 120 million children around the world do not attend school, due in part to hunger and malnutrition. Modeled on the U.S. government's domestic school meal program, the Food for Education program uses U.S. commodities and financial assistance to provide incentives for children and children to attend and remain in school, as well as provide improved child development through nutritional programs for women, infants, children, and young children. Since 2009, USDA has provided close to 64,000 metric tons of pulses to 26 countries through this Food for Education program. It has included a variety of pulses, such as lentils, whole and split peas, and a number of different types of beans. The pulses are used as a source of protein in combination with some other commodities, whether it be rice or a corn-soy blend, in the school lunch programs. A couple examples I would like to highlight. In Guinea, USDA worked with the International Partnership for Human Development and the UN's World Food Program over the past decade to provide daily meals to more than 600,000 children at 565 schools. Between 2000 and 2013, we provided more than 5,000 metric tons of pinto beans as part of that program. In 2008, we donated 4,800 metric tons of beans to the World Food Program for distribution to 300,000 students in 12 food insecure, drought-prone districts in eastern and southern provinces of Rwanda. Between 2012 and 2013, we also provided nearly 800 metric tons of lentils to support feeding and take-home rations in Burkina Faso. One of our programs there, administered by the Catholic Relief Services, targeted the poorest regions of the country where female literacy was only 8% and the rate of stunting among children under 5 was 40%. The program reached more than 110,000 students in over 450 primary schools and 26 preschools. Overall, we estimate that the Food for Education program benefits 6 million children and mothers each year. And we believe that pulse crops can, should, and will continue to play an important role because they are nutritious, widely accepted, amenable to long-term storage, and easily prepared. In addition to providing direct food assistance, USDA also works to promote food security and economic growth by providing training and collaborative research opportunities to scientists and policymakers for developing and middle-income countries in Africa, Asia, and Latin America. Through our Borlaug Fellowship Program, we have hosted scientists who have conducted important research on topics like increasing vitamin A in chickpeas, managing major soil-borne diseases of pulse crops. Moving forward, these continued scientific advancements and continued scientific advancement and innovation such as this will be key as we gear up to feed a growing population in a sustainable manner. While 2016 is the year of the pulses internationally, in the US and most definitely at USDA, 2015 is a year of expanding international trade. Trade is vital to the profitability of US farmers and ranchers and businesses, and key to maintaining strong rural communities. Sorry. Sorry about this. There's my pulse slide. I don't think that was up, but for some crops in the United States, over 50% of the production is being exported today. 70% of tree nuts and pulse crops are being exported. 20% of our fresh fruits are being exported. But even for products where our home market is the predominant share, like beef or dairy, exports are critical for farmer profitability and supporting domestic prices. For instance, in dairy, roughly 1 day of production every week is exported. Exports account for over 20% of US farm income. Simply stated, if you removed exports from farmers and ranchers' bottom lines, you would remove much of the profitability that our agricultural producers experience today. Increasing exports means stronger rural communities as well. In 2013, each dollar of agricultural exports meant another $1.22 was stimulated in business activity. Key to those strong agricultural exports for the U.S. and I would guess for the same would be true for many of the countries represented here, is to be able to maintain a competitive advantage, or at a minimum, keep a level playing field. When we look at the US's top 10 agricultural markets, they account for over 70% of US agricultural exports. Successful completion in the Trans-Pacific Partnership, or TPP, which is a trade agreement we're currently negotiating with Southeast Asia, and the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership, or TTIP, which is a deal we're negotiating with the European Union, we will ensure low tariffs in most of our top agricultural markets outside of the Greater China. TPP and TTIP have huge market potential for US farmers and ranchers. We don't really need to look much further than some of the benefits from our past agricultural trade agreement or free trade agreements that we've negotiated. This slide shows that those realized benefits, whether it be NAFTA or in the three most recent agreements that the US has entered into with South Korea, Colombia, and Panama. And those have actually just been around for 3 years since implementation. Trade Promotion Authority is key to keeping U.S. agricultural exports strong and competitive around the world. Trade Promotion Authority has its roots in the earliest trade negotiating authority passed by the New Deal in Congress in the 1930s and signed into law by FDR. But it has existed in its current form for every president since the 1970s, but has not been updated in at least a decade. The problem is, in my opinion, that TPA is kind of the ultimate inside the Washington, D.C. conversation. So we're talking about it on why it's really so important and the direct link to agricultural exports today. So what is TPP and why, or TPA, excuse me, we love our acronyms in DC. What is TPA and why is it needed? TPA defines how Congress will consider trade agreements, including timelines for consideration and votes. It directs the administration, myself, and on congressional priorities, and includes important transparency requirements. But it is not Congress giving their authority away, but rather it allows Congress to provide a blueprint for negotiating trade agreements that will win support at home and help Congress have metrics to really look at an agreement and see if what they stated at the beginning as their priorities was in fact reached. So while TPA might be a bit obscure, it is vital to keeping American agricultural economy American agricultural products on the grocery shelves around the world, and it's more important than ever. I use the term vital because I believe it is. Over 95% of our potential customers are outside the US borders, representing 80% of the world's purchasing power. The TPP region represents 40% of global economy today and is the fastest and most dynamic growing region in the world. This pact could expand to other regional partners once it is completed, only increasing the benefits that we could see from this agreement. Today, as you can see, 42% of all US agricultural exports are going to TPP countries. Lowering tariffs in this region will only allow that percentage to continue to grow. Globally, the middle class households are expected to reach over 1 billion by 2023. Much of that growth is in developing countries, specifically in the Asian region. As you can see, developed countries is pretty consistent. Asia's middle class is the fastest growing market in the world. Today, the population is hundreds of millions there, but in 20 years, it'll be in the billions. And by 2030, 66% of the world's middle class will be in Asia, and that will represent 59% of the world's class consumption. TPP is about, as I said, trade generally. Trade agreements are about leveling the playing field for U.S. producers, where today, we have very low tariffs on average in the United States, and we're facing very high tariffs in much of this region. The largest gains in TPP for U.S. ag exports are expected in some of the high-value categories that the U.S. producers really excel at, categories like proteins, meats, dairies, fruits, and vegetables. Today, Japan is the United States' fourth largest export market. However, we do face extremely high tariffs, even on products where they are our #1 market, such as beef, pork, wheat, and corn. But what we're seeing is the U.S. is actually losing market share today. In recent years, the Asian Pacific preferential trade agreements have drastically expanded, and U.S. producers and our exporters and businesses are being left behind. if Congress doesn't pass TPA and in turn TPP, the US will continue to lose this market share. The rest of the world is aggressively involved in trade agreements. The US is only party to 14 of 250 preferential agreements globally. Japan and Australia just signed a new agreement locking in some of Australia's preferences into our number 4 market, and the EU is also negotiating with Japan and Vietnam as we speak. The region is also extremely important to the US pulse crop industry. In 2014, we exported $194 million worth of pulses to the region, while we're facing tariffs as high as 10%. But it's not just all about Japan. Even though we talk a lot about the benefits to Japan, there's a lot of other really exciting markets here. Vietnam and Malaysia are 2 I'll talk about. They have fast-growing economies and very fast-growing middle classes. Over the past 10 years, U.S. agricultural exports to those 2 countries have collectively increased 6-fold, reaching $3.3 billion in 2014. Both have young and growing populations. In Vietnam, 43% of the population is under 25 years old, and in Malaysia, 45% of the population is under 25 years old. Over the last few months, we've made very significant progress on TPA negotiations, and they are now in the end game. The administration's goal has been to conclude a high standard and comprehensive deal, specifically in agricultural access, and comprehensive deal as soon as possible to benefit our farmers and ranchers and unlock the opportunity for our businesses and many of the folks in this room. So a quick status update on TPA. The House Ways and Means Committee in Congress and the Senate Finance Committee in Congress, their leadership are negotiating on what a final bill may look like. TPA is a priority for the president and all of the administration, and he and the administration are hopeful that that a bill will be introduced very soon with strong bipartisan support and be able to move quickly through Congress so we can conclude a strong TPP deal. Whether you're involved in science, policymaking, production of pulses, or the transportation or shipping, all of us in this room have a role to play in promoting the pulse crop production, consumption, and trade worldwide. And the upcoming International Year of the Pulses is really your time to shine. As I said at the outset, all of USDA looks forward to working with you through the upcoming year and raise a profile of pulse crops and build awareness in the importance they play in health, nutrition, food security around the world. Thank you so much for having me, and have a great conference and a great year next year of the International Year of the Pulses. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alexis. This is just a small gift to add to your collection and really outstanding. Thank you for coming on the part of the USDA and Secretary Vilsack. Thank you very much.